Okay, so without further ado, today's webinar is about managing your sales efforts. My name's John Malik. I've been with ChampionsWay for just a little over 10 years now. I currently hold the position of Vice President of Sales, and I've had the pleasure and honor of listening and consulting and working and collaborating with roughly 50 to 60 martial arts school owners a day ever since I joined this company. So I've heard a little bit of everything, and my goal today is to deliver what I would call my sample mix, my toolbox of all the highlights that I've heard and also things that I've applied at schools up here in Vancouver, British Columbia. You can find my email address there, so at any point, if you have a question that you want to ask that you don't feel comfortable asking in a public format, you can send it to me privately, and I'll certainly address it after the webinar. Also, if you want to get social, my Facebook URL is facebook.com/JIAL4. And from there, let's just get going. So first thing, I just want to clear up what this discussion is about today. Anytime I use the word sales in a webinar, it's kind of dangerous because people expect this to be a how to make sales type of class, and that's not really what it is. What this discussion is about all of the framework, all of the properties of your sales process and intelligent ways to manage it, as well as the types of materials and content you'll need to make the people that are responsible for sales at your school successful. I would really like to get into offers I would recommend and ways to upgrade or renew students if you're doing agreements and ways to sign people up. But my goal is to provide something that everyone can implement immediately. So think of it like this. Whatever you're doing right now as far as your pricing, your memberships, and all of that, you're going to keep doing that as a result of this webinar, but you're going to inject it perhaps with some additional workflows, processes, and concepts that will hopefully increase the effectivity immediately. The goal is for you to be able to implement something today or tomorrow from this webinar. So without further ado, let's get going. Today's key takeaways are, first, understanding the overall picture of all the activities involved in making sales happen at your school. Next is what you need to provide your staff in order to succeed at every stage of the process. And let me stop myself right there really quickly. If you don't have staff, I'm talking about you. These are the things you need to provide yourself with. The third thing will be what to manage and when to manage it. And we might be talking about ourselves here, which is okay. It's always important to do a self-evaluation. But if you have a staff member that you are trusting with the sales of your business, it's extremely important to be able to decide when they just can't do that. So we'll talk about some indicators there. And then we'll tie it all up with the tools you need to make it all work. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because we do offer tools, but I will discuss the tools you can get on the market without ChampionsWay as well as with ChampionsWay. So this is not a hidden pitch fest. This is straight, tangible information, and I really hope you enjoy it. So let's get going. So first up, this is the overall picture, okay? This is a really generic overall picture of essentially the stages of signing up a student in your school. So on the left-hand side, we're booking appointments. Then from there, we have to make the appointments happen. Essentially, we're confirming them and making the person show up. Next up is actually conducting the appointment. So what you go through when they come down to the school. And then after that, if they didn't sign up on the first or second appointment, depending on your model, what we do after the appointment when the sale is not made. And I've just placed a little note there for you at the bottom. Please don't focus on the naming of the first visit. Some people call them introductories. Some people call them trials. Some people call them enrollment conferences. Don't worry about all that. We're just talking about the same thing here. When someone first comes down to your doors and they're deciding whether or not they want to sign up. That's what I mean by appointment. Also, this class today is specific to the first membership sale. I'm not talking about upgrading current students or renewing current students. Part of this will apply, but the focus today is the very first enrollment. I would be shocked if anybody here today wouldn't want more students, so that's where I'm going to focus. Okay, so within the overall picture, each step, we've got some main challenges in place. These are the usual suspects for each step. So under booking appointments, I've got not making enough outbound efforts. That's usually the biggest challenge, is that you have a salesperson or a staff member responsible for sales, and they're not making enough outbound efforts, meaning sending emails, making phone calls, or just getting out there and greeting people. If they are, in some cases, you got low quality within the efforts, meaning it's kind of a half-hearted approach. They don't really enjoy doing it. They haven't been coached on how to do it. Hence, it's just one of the things where they're going through the motions. It's kind of like at the beginning of a class when you tell the students to shadow box and they're kind of doing it half-hearted. There's no opponent in front of them, so they're just throwing these sort of, I don't want to swear or say anything rude, but they're not throwing the best techniques, a crappy jab or a crappy cross, or their round kick just isn't coming up to head level. The main challenges within making the appointments happen is lack of urgency within the confirmation, so they're not making it seem important, or there's no confirmation process to be followed in the first place. So it's kind of a touch and go. Sometimes we confirm them, sometimes we don't, but there isn't like a set process that must be followed, like a Bible for confirming appointments. So those are the main challenges on that stage. When it comes to conducting the appointment, here's the main challenges I've seen. Biggest one ever. Loving what you offer is missing. The person that is actually introducing your memberships and your lessons to the person that's trying to make the decision if they want to join your school, well, they themselves are not in love with what it is they're selling. They're not training enough, or they don't train at all, or at that particular moment, the magic's just not there. They're going through a rut motivation-wise, and they just don't love it, and it really shows in the way that they present things. Then, even in the case that they do love what they're showing and they're super excited about it, one of the biggest mistakes is treating everyone the same. In other words, not knowing who you're introducing your lessons to and what makes them tick specifically. Everybody needs to be treated as an individual. Then, if they don't sign up at the first visit or the second visit and they've gone back and you're now in the follow-up mode, the biggest challenge I've seen here is just lack of quality perseverance with the people who didn't sign up. Essentially, they're not making the follow-ups at all, or the ones that they're making, again, are not with the level of urgency and importance and care that it's going to take to get someone to part with their hard-earned money and come back down and sign up. So here's the trick question, or it might not even be a trick question, but do you see anything in common with all the challenges at each stage of that big picture? Those 4 stages all have their own unique challenges. However, there's something in common with all of them. Here's what it is. It's up to you to solve all those challenges. Okay? I'm just going to underline that really quick. No one else is going to do this for us. All right? There's no consultant in the world that can get on the phone or send you an email that's going to solve these problems for you. We can guide you, but at the end of the day, here's the fact. All solutions needed will require your participation in some capacity. All right? So you do have some work ahead of you if any of the information today resonates. So, as I just said, nothing will improve until you start providing, and here are the things I think you need to provide. Motivation, all right? They have to love what they're doing. They have to be excited about what they're doing. If you go on YouTube, I've got a video up there called The Shrinking World of Sales, where I discuss all the sales methodologies and overcoming objections, and flashy sales pitches are starting to fall victim to the market that can see through them. So instead of that, we need people who are passionate and excited about what they do, and that there is the best sales fundamentals you can have. Next is guidance and direction. Okay, great, they're motivated, but motivated to do what? Is it the right thing? Is it the right time? My instructor, Master Free, just held a sales meeting a couple days ago with our team, and he mentioned the things he saw as being really important is having effort, working smart, and being consistent. So he gave us guidance and direction. Make sure we're doing enough, make sure we're spending our time on the right things, and make sure we're doing it each and every day. There's so many different ways to break this down, but that's one of the key components. And you need tools and content, okay? You need to give them tools and content. If they don't have the right tools, and if they don't have content, and I'll get down to what content means to me, and make sure that I clear that up a little bit later in this presentation, but if they don't have those things, it's going to be difficult for them to be successful. Here's the kicker. All this needs to be done in combination, okay? All of it needs to be done in combination. That's great. You know, if you don't provide motivation, the engine's not even going to get going, okay? And it's great if it is going, but you see that person walking off the edge, don't have people who are motivated and going in the wrong direction. It's actually going to hurt everyone in the long run. And then if they don't have the tools and the content to do it, it's like mowing a lawn with scissors, you know? It's just one of those things that after a while of trying at it, they're going to realize that it's ineffective, it's not working. They're going to feel like they're ineffective as employees. You're going to feel like you're ineffective as a leader, and it's a spiraling situation. All right, so that's takeaway number 1, was the big picture and just understanding what we're going to be working on at each stage. So takeaway number 2 is what you need to provide your staff in order to succeed at every stage of the process. And again, if you're a one-person show, this is the things that you need to provide yourself. So there's 2 types of staff to provide for. There's staff who are not selling memberships yet. You don't feel they're ready to do that, or perhaps that's just not their not something they have an affinity for doing just yet. So these people are building and setting appointments. And then the other group is the staff that are selling memberships as well as setting appointments, okay? I don't think there's really a case where someone is only doing the introductory lesson or the first enrollment conference and not booking their own appointments. I would just call that person lazy. They should be involved at all times. If you're selling martial arts memberships, you need to be out in the community, always setting appointments. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And again, if you only have one person in place, then everything we're going to talk about applies to them or you. Okay, so before I dive into group 1 and group 2, I'm going to discuss 3 things that both groups need. All right, 3 things they both need to be provided with, and it's a little out of the box. Let's get in it. First thing is a performance-based pay structure. We have a class coming up about pay structures, so make sure you register for that. I'm not sure if it was Kobe or which gentleman on our sales team invited you to this webinar, but they'll be sending out more invites for our pay structure class. And if you're coming to our training day event in New Jersey, I'll be teaching that there. But essentially, when money talks, people tend to listen. Jay-Z's proven that. He's made an image of being a wealthy individual, and as a result, his album sales speak for themselves. Next up, in quotes, they need that leader. You know, that person that's always certain about what they're doing, motivated about what they're doing, passionate about what they're doing, and they care about the people who are doing it with them. They need that leader to follow you. And I've got a quote there. It's an anonymous quote, but I really like this one. If you think you are leading and no one is following you, you're just going for a walk. That's pretty much all you're doing. So one thing I want you to think about are what would be 3 reasons your staff would follow you. What are 3 things about you that inspire them to follow you, imitate you, emulate you, do as you say, all those things? All right? It's important that we always evaluate ourselves as leaders. If we don't, we could just be going for a walk. The final thing that both groups need is they need students that are perceived as quality martial artists in the community. All right? Some schools have a notorious reputation of being a quote-unquote McDojo, where black belts are handed out to people that shouldn't even have a 2nd or a 3rd rank. All right? It is really hard to be committed to selling a poor quality product. You take anyone out of a Mercedes-Benz dealership and tell them to sell a lower quality vehicle, it's going to be tougher for them, because when someone sees a Mercedes-Benz driving around the city, there's a perception that that's a quality vehicle. What is the perception about your students? Are they respectful? Are they the kinds of people that take place in activities that don't really emulate a true martial arts school? Are they good at what they do? Do they have good form in their kicks? If they go to a tournament, are they representing for you? All right, so think about that. The quality of your product is shown in your students. And if you don't have quality students, let's focus there before you start thinking about ways to increase your sales. All right, so breaking it down, we're going to go deep into group 1 now. These are the people who book appointments and make the appointments happen, meaning have them show up. How am I doing so far? Is everyone following along? Is this too fast or too slow? Give me some feedback. Okay, great. Thanks, Jackie. And I'll keep going here. All right. For the first 2 steps of the process, we've got a lot of ground to cover here, okay? This is the part where we're just going to have to go a little bit faster. And if you have questions, just save them for the end. Okay, so here are the things we need to provide group number 1. Who to contact, scripts, email templates, shadowing, print collateral, daily reports, a physical sales board, aka an in-your-face board, minimum expectations, and a pay structure. So let's jump into each one of these now. Who to contact. Okay, so warning, here comes the heavy text. Call lists. The call lists that I recommend you start with would be inbound web leads, meaning you've got a capture form on your website. People fill that out, and it comes through as an email or an entry in your contact management system. Those are the people that you definitely want your appointment setters making phone calls to. They're the hottest people. They need immediate attention. In some cases, you might want to give those to your sales staff, meaning the closing staff that does the actually conducts the appointments. But I believe that if you can get your appointment setting staff confident with this level here, you're going to have a more effective team because more people can contribute. Next up, referral submissions. Okay, what we mean there is anytime someone says, I have a friend or I have a family member, anytime you do a referral drive and you're sourcing for referrals, once that information has been obtained, name, email address, phone number, whatever it is, someone needs to be on them right away. Old leads from special events and camps, birthday parties, you name it. There's no such thing as a dead lead. Anyone who tells you that is lying, or they just haven't done sales, or they just haven't done sales very well. There's no such thing as a dead lead. If you follow up with these leads and present them with the right information, eventually everyone will either be interested or refer you to someone else they know who will be interested because they appreciate your effort. And the easiest leads there are, former students, okay? I am shocked at how many schools don't make it a regular activity to touch base with the people that used to support them. Find out why they left. Check in and see how they're doing. What are they up to now? Would they be down to come down and check out your school the next time you have an open house? Even if you just changed the color of the paint on the wall, or brought in a new flat screen TV for the lobby display, or even just did the most minor upgrade to your school, tell them to come down and check you out. All right? Former students are an amazing call list. On top of call lists that you should provide these people, they need also to build their own lists. What I mean by this is in-person introductions. So when they're outside of the school and they're in the community, maybe they go to college, maybe they go to high school, perhaps they've got a second job, or they're just at the gym, whatever it is they do, they need to be making introductions on a regular basis, okay? There's a saying out there that people buy from people, and it is true. You can speed up the sales process by having each and every one of the people in your school responsible for sales being a non-stop walking, talking billboard for the school. It'll help their paycheck, it'll help your paycheck. So encourage that. Next up, I've got my tablet lease concept. Now, this is a newer idea. First time I talked about this was at the Martial Arts Super Show in July. And since then, I've had a couple clients try it and rave about the results. So here's how it works. Get a tablet, BlackBerry Playbook, Samsung Galaxy Tab, iPad. You can get an iPad 1 off Craigslist for really cheap now that the 2 is out and the 3 is on the way. What you do is this. You hold a quick meeting with your staff. If you only have one person, have a meeting with them. And what you inform them is that you've bought a tablet and you'd like to give it to them, but on a lease plan. And here's how the lease works. As long as they generate 10 leads a week, if you want, you can even make it 5 leads a week. But the idea is, on the tablet, they can fill out a form on your website for the person that they're talking to. So it's like they go to the website, they go to the info capture form, and they fill it out for the person they're talking to. The tablet is a novelty item. If you have a nice looking website or any website at all, it kind of creates a bit of an assumption that that person will check it out if they hand the tablet to someone. So I'm in a coffee shop, I see someone, you know what I mean? Hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Hey, did you know I'm working at the martial arts school? Oh, really? How is it? It's great. Hey, just out of curiosity, would you be down to try a lesson one time? Oh, I'm not really sure. Okay, well, I tell you what, how about I add you to our mailing list and check out some of the videos we send out? Okay, sure. They fill it out for them and generate the lead. That's one. If they do 9 more each week, they get to keep the tablet. Find me anyone under the age of 40 who doesn't want a tablet. They all want tablets. They can check their Facebook, they can watch YouTube, they can read books, they can do their email. It's a cool device to have, and not everyone can afford one. So offer one to your staff, preferably your part-time staff, and watch what happens when you inform them that all they need to do to keep it for free is get 10 people filling out a form each week. Outside of that, they can definitely build their own lists from online networks. Just going on Facebook and hunting through their friends lists and seeing if anyone wants to come down and try a class. Hunting through the students' friends lists. You know what I mean? Sending your Facebook business page to those people and saying, hey, check us out, give us a like. By the way, I got this intro offer, I've got this trial lesson offer, and so forth. All right? So that's the first thing we need to provide these people is guidance on who they should be contacting. Next up, they need scripts. Not everyone is born to just jabber on about martial arts, okay? The excited people do a good job, but a script will always help. And just so you know, by script, I don't mean if they say this, you say that, if they say this, you say that. That worked in the 80s, maybe in the 90s. These days, it has to be authentic. If you can't have a conversation without reading, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But what the script does is it helps get you an idea of what are the things you will want to discuss during the conversation, as well as things to be prepared for. It's kind of like a guideline, but it's not something you read. I'm sure we've all been called by a telemarketer, and you can tell it just sucks. All right, so let's go through the formula that I would suggest. First thing up is give them some example greetings specific to the type of contact. You know and I know calling a referral is a little bit different than calling someone who just filled out a form on your website. So make sure you give them some example greetings for each kind of introduction that they're making to different types of contacts. Next up, they need content that will support the most important concept of a script, which is no empty hands, okay? What I mean by no empty hands is don't have your staff make phone calls only to tell people to come down to your school. That there is asking for a favor without giving a favor in return. We need to give something of value in exchange for the request for them to come down and see us. What are things of value? An example would be a report on 5 ways to improve your flexibility in your lower back. For a child, 5 ways to improve focus. You got to provide videos, maybe a white paper like an article, and you don't even need to write this stuff. As long as you give credit to the author and the author of the video or the article is not a competing school down the block, you can use that material. I highly suggest you build your own, but if you don't have time and you want to get started, hunt on the internet. There's a lot of great stuff out there that you can use and get that in the hands of the people that are considering lessons. Don't let staff call with empty hands, all right? Then quick instructions to get the content. So they need to be ready to say, hey, I sent you an email, can you check the link? Or go to our website. There's a link on our website called Media. Yeah, the third one down is something I think you'd really like because I noticed you were interested in competition. Well, that's a highlight of our last tournament. Yeah, 2 of our instructors here are just incredible fighters. Or one of our instructors, she's got an amazing nunchuck kata. You got to check it out. Also, if you have a website through ChampionsWay, we've got a thing called The Lounge. Conversations can be posted there, and it's a great way to get people talking. So tell them, hey, we've got an interesting conversation going on right now about how young is too young to start in martial arts. Would love your feedback. Just don't let them call with empty hands, and don't let them call without any kind of instructions as to how to get it so that they sound natural. Okay, what happens if people start to ask questions? Well, you want your person calling to have in their script what is notable about your school. So initial answers to popular questions. They should be able, I should be able to throw water on their face at 4 in the morning, and they should be able to wake up and tell me 10 reasons why the head instructor is awesome. All right? They should be able to tell us when the school opened, how many people it's touched in the community, any charities it sponsors, anything, any references in the local newspaper. But you need to have a couple highlight credibility building type points to make it any time about your school. One thing I put in there is also answers to questions that are often thought but not asked. Everybody has questions that are in their head. We need to be able to cover those when you can feel someone is thinking, oh, I wonder what the price is. Well, hey, throw out, the classes are approximately X dollars per class, and there's monthly unlimited plans that you can take a look at when you come down. Okay, lastly, we need a solid breakdown for booking the appointment and booking best practices. So let's just say someone is making these phone calls and they make 20 of them and 18 people don't pick up. One person is kind of like half asleep when they call, and the person's starting to lose motivation. They're starting to kind of get out of the rhythm, but then all of a sudden they get on a call that gets hot quick, and that happens. Sometimes you get lucky and you make a phone call to someone that's just ready to go. Well, they got to know things like don't book them for longer than 3 days from now. You know what I mean? If you book someone for 2 weeks from now, of course they're going to forget and they're not going to come down. Good luck confirming that appointment. As far as booking best practices, ensure that you get 2 telephone numbers to call the person. What would be the best way to reach you? Okay, and if we don't get you there, where should we call you? Try and get additional information. All right. Some schools do like to give out some kind of tangible good, some kind of reward for coming down to the school, a school T-shirt, a pair of MMA gloves, whatever it is. If you have something like that that you're comfortable offering to the people who are coming down the first time, make sure that's mentioned. All right, because maybe they're not interested in coming down to the school, but that little offer, that physical good they have to come down and pick up is just enough to push them over the edge. Tips. All scripts have to sound natural coming out of their mouth. All right? They do not need to simply learn how to say it how you say it. It doesn't work that way. They've got to put it in their own words. If they don't sound natural using the script you provide or the bullet points you provide, then they've got to revise it and make their own. Part of my training that I've been doing here at my company for the last 10 years is everyone writes their own script and then I approve it. I want them to have their own style. So make sure they've got their own style. Lastly, the best script is the one that has bullet points to cover. Like I said at the beginning, reading is easy to detect and people don't like to be read to. They want to have a conversation. Next up, email templates. You have to provide email templates. Do not allow your staff to waste time each and every day crafting one email by one email by one email for each specific follow-up. They should have a set of templates that are ready to go that they can fire off and get onto the next call, fire off, get onto the next call, and so forth. Here are the things I suggest you have in your email templates. Your tone. Some people have friends that are better writers than them, and they say, can you write an email for people that have agreed to come down to a lesson? And then it's a beautiful crafted email. The vocabulary is eloquent. The delivery is great. All that stuff. The only problem is that it doesn't match at all the culture of the school or the culture of the instructors. That is a mistake. You definitely have to have some continuity between the first couple places they hear from you and learn, how you communicate and what you're about, down to when they come down to the school. All right. If you're sending out emails that look like they were written by someone with an English accent and grammar from Shakespeare, and then they come down and that's not who you are, it's just awkward. All right. So be proud of who you are. Be proud of your uniqueness as a school and show that in the tone of your emails. If you're a casual school, be casual. If you're a formal, traditional school, be formal and traditional. But just be real. Also, content in the email templates needs to be specific to two things: the person's interests and how they heard of us. If they heard of us by referral, we can send a much more intimate email. If they're interested in competition, we shouldn't be sending them emails about focus and leadership. They don't want focus and leadership. They want a trophy. All right. If they came to us because they want to do a kickboxing program and lose weight, well, let's talk about burning calories. Let's put in some videos of people who have gone through a physical transformation as a result of training at your school and losing weight. Just make sure that the content is specific to them. We'll talk a little bit later about how you can have emails that are automated to people based on their interests and how they heard of you. But the first step is writing them, and you have to do it. Okay? It's just one of those things we got to get done. This is a big one. I hate to say that looks are everything, but with an email template, if it doesn't have some images in it, or a nice looking font, or a decent header at the top, or at least a logo, your staff aren't going to be excited to send it out. Okay, picture you've got that staff member that doesn't have all the confidence in the world, all right? And they make these phone calls, and they're kind of like, oh, I'm not sure I really want to say all this on the phone. This person doesn't even want to hear from me. But they know they've got a really beautiful email template which will warm things up for them. If they have a nice email template behind them, it's kind of like having an ally. It's kind of like having a secret weapon. And they will want to make the calls because they know as long as they get the warrant to send out the email, that email will make the next call easier. Or if they're web leads that were generated, if they've already received a good email with a video in it, with an article from the instructor, with links to your Facebook page and your website, they know that that person's kind of warmed up already. So make sure your email templates look good enough to make staff excited to send them. Email templates have to be easy to send. Okay? If it's a difficult process to copy and paste it in and send it out every time, don't expect it to get done. They'll tell you they did it when they didn't. What are the kinds of template types? Here's some examples, and just so you know, we have another class on email templates alone that we can send you after this if you're interested in it, but here's some example template types. An initial thank you to new prospects, so anyone we generate on the web, over a phone call, or in person, you have to have a specific thank you for each type, just so that way we get the ball rolling. Then you want the nurturing templates. We kind of talked about those a little bit, but that's after they've originally provided their contact info, and now we're trying to book that appointment. In between the time you get their information and the time you actually successfully book them is when we need to nurture them with all kinds of content. Videos about your school, testimonials from real life students, and not written testimonials, video testimonials, okay, if you can. Shoot them with an iPhone. Just get someone to mention what their hesitations were before joining your school and all of the benefits that they've experienced in their life as a result of joining. Parents really can sell for you, believe me on that one. You need confirmation templates, all right? An email to confirm appointments. We'll talk a little bit more about what needs to be in it later. Also, when people miss appointments, you want to have follow-ups 1 through X. I suggest having at least up to 8 of them, and they don't need to be long, just short little ones. Hey, we missed you today. We know life gets busy, but there's a couple of available times. If you'd like to call us back and let us know, or write back and let us know when you can come back, and then you mix it up. You add additional, hey, did you know we're doing this weekend? Hey, did you know that this upcoming event is happening? We'd love to have you come down. You need to have missed appointment follow-up emails. So that way when someone misses an appointment, we just check that that happened and the system starts to follow up for us. If they do come down to the appointment, they need to have some kind of email in their inbox before they get in the car. The second you shake their hand and say, thank you so much for coming down, is the second we send out a thank you for coming today email. All right? In the event that they did sign up, they should be getting some kind of welcome to the family. In the event that they didn't sign up, they need some kind of affirmation that the school they just came to is the best one in the community and you are so excited to meet them that day. Make sure everyone gets a thank you email the day they visit your school the first time. Then, if they haven't signed up and it's been a little bit of time, we want some additional follow-ups, all right? And again, it's more of the nurturing content, not much different from the stuff up here, but just additional benefits of martial arts. Reports on, out of 100 people who train in martial arts, 70 reported that they had an improvement in their style, in their lifestyle, or whatever the case may be. I'm trying to come up with examples that would apply to everyone, but I'm sure you can fill in the blanks for me. Okay, email templates is a big one, as you can see. Next up, we have to provide them with a timeline of when to call and when to email. All right. If they send 20 emails in the same day, that's not a good thing. If they make 20 phone calls in the same day, that's not a good thing. Now imagine they don't do any of that and it's like once every 2 weeks. That's not good either. So we've got a separate class on email marketing timelines again. So if you're interested in that, just email me and I'll send you the recording. But other than that, a call timeline for new contacts, it's really dependent on how many leads you're generating and the number of hours per week that you staff your salespeople. Okay, if they're only coming in 3 hours a day and you have a ridiculous amount of leads because you're a popular school, well, the first thing I'd ask you is why don't you have a full-time salesperson? But in some cases, they just don't have time to follow up with everyone at the rate that would be desired. Here's what I would say is a desired follow-up rate for a full-time salesperson. We want it to for phone calls. We want to call them within 24 hours. We want a second follow-up if we didn't get in touch with them within 48 hours. Then push to 72 hours twice. Okay, so that's call number 3 and call number 4. Thanks so much, Jackie. And then after that, once a week, up to 4 times. Okay, if you've made a phone call 8 times to someone and it just hasn't happened yet, that would be the time to back away and maybe call them just with as part of the old leads group or send emails. Okay, but definitely everybody should get a minimum of 8 phone calls to follow up. They showed interest at some point. We have to show interest in having them come down. Print collateral. You have to give your sales staff print collateral. What I mean by that specifically is either business cards or flyers, okay? Business cards are desired. Why? If you don't take the salesperson seriously enough to give them business cards that make them feel proud of being a part of your school, they're not going to take themselves seriously either. Confidence is everything. Sometimes having a flashy business card is all it takes to get someone who is not confident to become confident enough to say, hey, here's where I work, you should check it out. Remember, being proud of the school will always help, and there's a connection between the business card with their name on it and your logo on it, all right? It does form some kind of hard to measure connection, but it's there. I think you can agree with me on that. One thing that's a cool idea is to throw a QR code with in italics, you can trust the scan labeled underneath it. If you're not sure of what QR codes are, just go on YouTube and search QR codes in Perfect Mind. We've got a video up there that explains it all, but essentially those are those little codes that you can scan that will take people to a website. If you have a business card with a QR code that points to a mobile form, you might shorten the sales cycle 1 step because now you can contact them rather than them having to contact you. And if you're not ready with a new hire to provide them with their own business cards with their name on it, because that's incurring a cost, you can certainly just make a small generic flyer, not a big one, but a small generic flyer that essentially states all the same things. Okay, so we're halfway done the first group. Now we're on to confirming appointments. They need a confirmation email template. We mentioned this. So this is what we want in that template. The first thing is eliminate fears and surprises, okay? I don't know if you can remember the first time you came down to a martial arts school, but you need to. Was it weird the first time that you came in the door and the person ahead of you bowed at the entrance? Was it weird? I don't know if you guys have any martial arts terminology, if you speak Korean when you count, if you say os when you greet someone. But each style has its own special kind of idiosyncrasies about it, and it's important that you cover those in a confirmation email. I'm not saying type a whole article on it in the email, but provide a hyperlink to it. So if the person's interested in reading more about why it is your school has a unique culture, they can do so. And instead of becoming afraid of it when they first come down and being surprised that I didn't know what I was getting myself into, they can actually attach themselves to it and kind of fall in love with the culture of your school and be excited to be a part of it. Also, if you have people wear a uniform on the very first visit, make sure you provide a YouTube video of how to tie a belt. I've seen many doctors and lawyers and high-powered executives who are usually confident and dominate their environments go into a change room when I'm preparing for class, and I see them struggling tying up the belt, and I'm, hey man, do you need help with that? And I wonder, if I wasn't there, would they walk out of there already uncomfortable? We want people to be comfortable. So provide information in your confirmation email to anyone who books a lesson that will make them feel comfortable. Next up, provide convenience. Okay, directions, where to park, anything you can do to make it easier for them to come down. Reinforce quality. Provide a couple links to content that just reminds them they made the right decision to dedicate their very, very valuable time to the activity of coming down to visit you. All right, I'm going to just highlight that. Reinforce quality. It's important that they know that they picked the right school to come down and check out. And last but certainly not least, if you can, present a face. Okay, create a connection. Have a biography, a video biography of a staff member. Okay, just something short. Hey, my name's so-and-so. I'm really excited that you decided to come down and check us out. Can't wait to meet you. If you have any questions, send me an email to here or give us a call at there. All right, sometimes just putting a link to a quick video in the email is enough to help kind of weed out some of the additional concerns that people weren't comfortable to communicate the first time on the phone. You'd be surprised how much people will communicate by email if you give them the opportunity to. All right? And if you don't have a high quality video camera, don't worry about it. Any smartphone can do this stuff. Now, the confirmation phone call, all right? Yes, you send an email and you call them. This is our money we're talking about. Do you want to lose an opportunity to get a new student? No, you don't. You work so hard to get them to agree to come down in the first place. Why wouldn't we make sure that they actually fulfill their agreement to come down and check us out? So email them and call them. When you call them, the staff member making the phone call always has to have something extra ready to offer in case they get the maybe person. Okay? The maybe people are the people that you call them the day of or you call them the night before and they mention something that just came up. Okay? It's so critical that you provide them with some kind of guideline as to what they can throw out there. Oh, well, that, shoot. Typically when people book a lesson, we have a little surprise for them, and we don't tell you about it until you get down here. But now that I know you're not sure if you're going to come down, I just want to let you know I put aside a size medium for you. I wasn't sure if you're a medium or a large, but we got our brand new shirts printed like 2 months ago, and I've got one waiting for you. Just come on down. Why don't you just come on down? No one also likes to be annoying when they make these phone calls. Hey, just wondering if you thought about that lesson, you're still coming down, right? Staff will pick up on this, and they'll feel like they're becoming an annoying salesperson. And because not everyone is a born salesperson, you have to give them something to take both their focus and the prospect's focus off the fact that this is, in fact, a sales call, okay? And when I say light motivation coaching at the bottom, what I mean is coaching your sales staff that confirm the appointments on how to motivate others. I'm not talking about motivating them in this particular context. I'm talking about teaching them to motivate others. And I mean light motivation. We don't want someone ultra pushy making the first impression saying, what do you mean, your loved one's in the hospital? You have a commitment, and the first step in martial arts training is commitment, and currently you're already breaking. No, we don't want to do any of that stuff. All we want to do is provide a light level of kind of handling any of those last minute reasons why someone says they can't come. Just providing some light, are you sure? That kind of stuff. Just give them a little bit of coaching on that and watch, you'll increase your numbers. If you're not sure what I mean by that, send me an email and we can go into that further. Okay. No one achieves anything unless they know what you expect of them. So provide them with your minimum expectations to start and ramp it up. This includes providing them with sufficient time to complete the tasks. So keep in mind, if you're only staffing your salesperson 3 or 4 hours a day, don't ask them to make a ridiculous amount of activities, phone calls, and emails, which they don't have time to do because they're already answering your phones, they're already helping out with tasks around the school. You have to at least give them enough time to hit the goals that you're setting for them. That brings up the question, how long should someone spend on each activity? How long should each phone call take? Well, the only point I want to make here is that one educated follow-up is worth 5 blind ones. All right? Calling 5 people or emailing 5 people without knowing anything about them, chances are only one of those situations will go well for you. However, if you take the time to go over your notes on a previous person or look them up on Facebook and get an idea of who you're calling or get an idea of who you're emailing, if you take the time to do that, you're going to hit that every single time. People appreciate when you take the time to learn more about them before you ask something from them. So Give them enough time to make educated follow-ups. All right. My example would be usually you can't do more than 10 or 15 of those in an hour. All right. That gives them time to make the call, log the notes. Not everyone's going to pick up. So it usually works out to about 15 an hour. If you've got a good salesperson, maybe 20. And activities with contacts of all types. Give them a list of all the types of contact you want them to make to different groups. So I want you to call 10 referrals today. I want you to call 10 old leads. I want you to call 10 former students. And I want you to call 20 of the people that inquired in the last 2 months. However your lists are broken down, mix it up. Give them an opportunity to not get stuck doing the same redundant thing all day. Otherwise, they will burn out. Then, how can I say this? Focus on the shows. Don't ask someone to do a minimum of X amount of bookings unless you're just using that as a way to measure effort, all right? It's kind of the same thing as how many phone calls did you make. It's like asking how many people picked up the phone. Of course they're going to book them, but what's more important is how many people actually show up. That's where the quality comes from. So that's where I suggest you place more emphasis on your minimum expectations. Sensei John, I want you to have 10 people show up to appointments that you book next week. You've got this week to prepare that to happen, and next week we need to see 10 people walk through the doors. 2 a day, 3 a day, and 1 a day, doesn't matter. 10 by the end of the week, okay? That would be an example of setting minimum expectations. In order to help them hit those expectations, give them a daily report that they must fill out. Here's the things we measure for people who set and book and confirm appointments. Activities, so how many calls and how many emails. Bookings, how many people said, yes, I'll come down. Confirmations, how many people did they reach out and confirm the appointment with? Shows, how many people showed up? And lastly, people who did not show up from previous booked appointments, how many follow-ups have you made? Just on a daily measure. And this report really isn't for you to sit there and analyze every single night, although you should, but it's actually more for the person who writes it, because it helps them at the end of the day take a look and audit their own effort and see how they did. And if you've got someone that's got a little bit of a competitive attitude, which is a good thing, they'll try and beat the day before and the day before, and that's how you build a great employee. Last thing you need to provide these people is a performance pay structure based on how many people they have show up and how many of those people actually sign up. They should get a little bonus each time an appointment that they book signs up. We're going to talk about that in our next class on performance pay structures. Okay, so we're on to group 2 here. Group 2 is the group that's closing, conducting the appointments and doing the post-appointment follow-ups. Here are their needs. First one is shadowing, okay? They need to shadow the process of conducting the appointment, okay? If, I don't know what you call them, if they're trial lessons, introductory lessons, enrollment conferences, whatever it is, but they need to shadow you on at least 10 of these. They need to see you do the full orientation around your facility, and they need to see you discuss the commitment, meaning the different options the person can sign up for. If you can't show them how you want it done, it's going to be very tough to lead them or expect from them, all right? So if you haven't done one of these in a while and you're training a new staff person, whoever is doing these needs to conduct 10 shadowing sessions where they show them how it's done. It's just like when you're training an instructor and you let them stand beside you at the front. They're not teaching, but they're watching how you teach. They have to see how it's done. Then, after every single appointment, you have to debrief right there while it's fresh in their minds. Talk to them about where you felt the appointment was strong, where it went weak, why it was you approached that person the way you did, what it was you saw in that person that wasn't obvious, but was important to notice in order to treat them like a specific individual. Debrief after every single one and have them write notes. It's kind of like creating a diary of how to sell. Then they also have to shadow you on the process of completing the payment agreement form. Okay? It's a simple enough thing to do, but when mistakes are made, it's fatal. You know and I know, if you get someone to sign an agreement and then you call them back and say, oh, actually, we just need your payment method again, or actually, we forgot to get this, it is going to rival their confidence. And usually people who are excited about buying something new are still second guessing it for the first few weeks. You don't want to provide them with any reasons to exit when you've worked so hard to sign them up in the first place. Then, after they've learned and they've shadowed with you, they need some guidelines for offering deals and discounts, okay? Any school that says we never offer any kind of special deal or discount is lying. There's always some form of hookup that's being offered at least 1 out of every 10 enrollments. Here's some examples. Offers to change for the appointment booking. So someone is booked for the appointment, they say they don't want to come or they can't make it, are you allowed to offer a free pair of MMA gloves? Are you allowed to offer a free t-shirt? Give them, what the boundaries are on the kinds of things they can offer for people to come down and commit to the appointment. Discounts. What is the discount if someone pays in full for the year? Does that person know that, and do they know how to present that? Okay? Everyone should be providing, if you sell one-year memberships, everyone should be providing the pay in full rate first. And then when the person says that's too much, oh, actually, we can do it monthly and finance it at no charge. All right? Delayed payments. Sometimes a great tactic to sign someone up who's unsure is to explain to them, hey, you know what? Why don't you take your first couple of lessons and we won't charge you for 10 days. Are they allowed to do that? What is the maximum amount of time they're allowed to delay the first payment? Pro shop items. Are they allowed to give out, a discount on a sparring package if they sign up before the day of whatever? All right. So give them some guidelines on the kinds of items they're allowed to discount or even give away free for people who make a commitment to your school. And one thing that's specific to our Perfect Mind software from ChampionsWay is cash rewards. This is phenomenal. What it is, it's a kind of like a Starbucks reward card or any of those cards that you can have a balance on, except it's digital. It all works through your website. So what you can do is you can give people cash rewards, meaning kind of like a balance. In the 80s, we call these karate bucks, but it's like a little balance they can use towards future payments on pro shop items or anything like that. And here's one of the interesting kind of abstract thoughts about this. Everyone I know tries to keep a minimum balance of money in their savings account. It's kind of like, you call it a cushion or whatever it is. Well, a lot of people who have cash rewards balances tend to want to keep that balance at a certain level, just for, in case there's a special event and they want to be able to buy the admission to the workshop, or just in case maybe they want to get a new uniform at any time, or just in case they forget to make a payment on their membership and they want to use their cash rewards towards it. So you'll have a lot of people keep these balances on file and possibly never use them. And then when you do use them, as if they miss a payment, you can use the cash rewards towards that. So this is a great way to prevent loss of revenue. Okay, sales training. First thing I want you to look at is at the very bottom. I have a different meaning here than the popular perception of what sales training is. I'm not talking about overcoming objections and rebuttals and creating urgency, and if they say this, you say that, and what do you mean you need to talk to your wife before you make a decision? No, none of that stuff. That's the 80s. I'm talking about new school sales training. First and most important thing is knowledge about what they are selling. They have to be experts about what they're selling. If they're not experts about what they're selling, they have to at least be very excited so that eventually they will obtain the knowledge to be an expert in what they're selling. All right? They have to be able to connect with people of all walks of life. So teach them different ways to relate to people. The best way to teach them is just do it, and they'll eventually pick it up. They might imitate you a little bit at first, which is okay, but eventually they'll get their own style. All right? The best way to learn how to connect with people is to practice. Give them homework. Today, for the next 10 days, I want you immediately to make conversation with 3 strangers a day. In the elevator, walking down the street, in the lineup at the grocery store, you have to talk to 3 strangers and tell me how it went tomorrow. Excitement about the school, we already mentioned that. They have to be excited at all times. You have to provide motivation coaching. So what I mean by this is they have to be taught how to motivate others, how to find the strengths in people and empower them, how to see a genuine strength. You can't just give someone, a falsified compliment. You got to be able to give them a genuine compliment. So someone comes in, they're a little overweight, they have no flexibility, but you know what? They kept trying to do that one particular technique in the introductory appointment. You can compliment their perseverance and say, you know what? Let's be real here. You're not a professional athlete, but you definitely got the drive, and I think you'd make an awesome martial artist. Anybody can be given a compliment. You need to teach them to become expert complimenters, expert motivators. Lastly, boundaries. All right, when you're training your salespeople, they need to know how far is too far when it comes to pushing. They need to know how far is too far when it comes to discounts. And basically anything that makes you uncomfortable, they need to know about that so they can get in the habit early of not going past those boundaries. So that's it for sales training. Okay, this one is often overlooked. The salesperson's personal presentation. Attire. Are they allowed to wear a school golf shirt? Do they have to wear a uniform? Whatever it is, it better not be wrinkled. It better not be dirty, okay? They should always look crisp and always look professional. It just, unfortunately, people are judged by covers, so let's just work with human nature instead of trying to work against it. Hygiene. Oh my goodness. How many times have you spoken to someone who's had horrible breath and it's completely distracted you? Like you didn't even remember what they were talking about for the last 10 minutes. All you can smell is like a combination of a cigarette and what they ate. Now, I'm expecting that no one that works in your school smokes, but it's possible that they eat something that doesn't have the best flavor. Maybe they had some sushi. I don't know. But tell them to keep a toothbrush and toothpaste at the school, or always have a breath mint before an appointment. Chewing gum is absolutely unacceptable. Don't ever, ever chew gum when you're speaking to somebody in a business conversation. And shaving if they're male, having their hair tied back if they're a girl. Have them be proud of how they look and how they dress. Confidence does radiate from physical appearance, and then it comes from inside. So at least make the first ones checked off to start with, and we'll work on the internal confidence as they become a better salesperson. You guys can hear me clearly right now. Voice projection. Imagine if I was talking like this. So one of the things you need to do in a sales presentation, you have to project your voice with the confidence behind it. All right? I'm not asking them to shout and yell, but they have to practice speaking clearly and confidently. And last but certainly not least is body language. Shake hands and make eye contact. Stand up straight. Don't fiddle when you're talking to somebody. When you're asking someone for a $3,000 contract, your hands better not be shaking when you hand over the paper. Be confident and radiate that in the way that your body moves and the way that your eye contact makes eye contact with them at all times. Okay? So personal presentation, please don't overlook that. All right. We're almost done this takeaway, so I appreciate everybody's energy and their time today. If the sale is not made, they need follow-up scripts, all right? We talked about the script formula earlier. It's no different than that, other than the fact that we need to be ready to address reasons why they feel that they don't want to come down to the school again, and just have some additional reasons why they could come down. I don't want to call it overcoming objections or overcoming rebuttals, although that's kind of what it is. But essentially what we want to do is provide them with enough information, facts, and options, and exciting options to come back down to the school. If they came down and they just did a one-on-one lesson and they're not vibing, invite them to come down to a cardio class. Invite them to come down to a jiu-jitsu class. Mix it up, all right? So give them things to say in those scripts that will make sure that they have the opportunity to excite anyone. Email templates, same thing you'd say in the script, but communicated in an email. All right, additional facts, additional did you knows, videos from different kinds of students, someone that's in their late 60s, someone that's in their, only 6 years old, doesn't matter, mix it up. They always have to have content to provide, all right? We want to prevent that empty hands thing, and what I mean by empty hands, just one last time to drive this point home, is if I'm making a follow-up call to someone who's considering buying my product, the one thing I never want to say is, hi there. Just wondering if you thought about signing up for, our basic program. You were in just last week, and what are your thoughts on it? Are you ready to go? They already know why you're calling. You're not calling them to ask them about the weather. All right. So there's no need to call them and ask them if they've thought about it. They already know that's why you're calling. Call them with some other reason. For example, one of my sales reps, Kobe. He hates calling people and saying, have you thought about buying the software? So instead, he called all of you and said, hey, we have a webinar tomorrow. It's a much better way to reach out to people and say hello. Provide them with some kind of value so you're not calling with empty hands. I personally think it's disrespectful to take time out of someone's day just to ask about something that only benefits you. Every conversation should be an equal exchange of value for both parties to benefit. And if you follow those guidelines, your calls will get answered. Make sure you're hosting seminars and special events regularly, okay? If you're not doing these things, it's kind of like the only reason for them to come down is to sign up. If that's the only reason, you're limiting your audience. So have things going on at all times that are exciting. Do self-defense workshops, do boot camps, do all kinds of things that attract different crowds so that way you can eventually cross-promote into your core memberships. The daily report for Group 2. Everything from Group 1, so everything about the appointment booking we covered earlier, plus the following. How many appointments they performed, how many sales they made, both memberships and Pro Shop, and most importantly, how much money did they collect. That's all. Every single day, you have to see that report from them. And who's it for? It's for them. They need an in-your-face board. I got to give a shout out to Sensei Brooklyn. He used to be the program director at one of our flagship schools up here in North Vancouver, and this is a digital version of the in-your-face board that they use at the school. Picture a big, huge whiteboard with tape, like black duct tape for lines, and they've got a whole bunch of wet, dry erase markers. that they're able to write in red and blue and black based on the numbers. But here's the kinds of things that they're looking at. How many follow-up calls have been done this week? How many intro ones booked? How many showed? How many intro twos booked? How many showed? How many people signed up? We call those extensions. How much money was collected through down payments? How many renewals? How many renewal down payments collected? How many people are currently delinquent, meaning missing payment? What's our total students? How many students are currently paying us through our online payment gateway? Those are our true month-to-month revenue versus the people who paid in full. How many A, B, C, and non-active students? We're talking about attendance ratings. How many upgrades? How many upgrade down payments collected? Cancellations, pro shop. You guys can see every single possible sales stat is on this in-your-face board, and it has to be. Why? Because everybody looks at it, and this is the best way to keep it in the top of everyone's mind. They need to know what's going on in the school. When was the last time you saw a basketball game, football game, or baseball game where there was no scoreboard? Okay? Don't run your business without keeping score. Chances are you'll fail each and every time if you don't keep score until it's too late. All right, so that's an example. If you'd like us to send you that template, send me an email at the end of the webinar. I'd be more than happy to do that. Pay structure. That's next class, but the pay structure will be based on, of course, their sales. And we'll talk about that next webinar. Okay, going to take a quick breather here. Just let you know we're well past the halfway point. We're almost actually done this webinar. If you have questions, just hang on a little bit longer. And again, I appreciate your energy, your patience, and your time today. Takeaway number 3, what to manage and when to manage it. This is daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. Okay, so daily. You check in with each and every sales staff twice per day. Twice. Not once every 2 days, not once every 3 days, 2 times every single day, and this is what you do. Ask about the stats every time. That is an indirect way of saying statistics are important to me. I am your boss, and I want to know them. It's a good idea if you know them at all the time. And if they know the stats all the time, guess what? They'll be on top of the ones that need improvement, and they'll be proud of the ones that are doing well. This is how we build a self-disciplined salesperson. Ask them about successes and failures every single time. Just check in and say, hey, anything good going on? Anything set you back today? We need always to improve and evaluate how things are going, and it's our job to support these people. If you don't know what's good and what's bad, how can you support them? Always coach and reassure, then coach and push. Balance the tone of a friendly to firm type of tone based on the situation. So check in. If they mention a failure and the failure is something that they couldn't have done anything about, that's all good. Coach them on what they could do for next time and push them to be able to achieve it. If you notice that the current failure for that day is that we're just not trying, well, there's no need to be friendly about it. Be firm. Hey, come on. I'm paying you to get this done. Please be respectful of your job and get this done. Weekly meetings. All right. This isn't a group environment. We want to discuss team wins and team losses and key statistics. Key statistics means anything that's really good or really bad. Coach, empower your staff, and reinforce the values of your company. All right? So it's a mix of covering the actual situation, the statistics over the last week. Then the coaching could be something that could be a year-long thing. It could be specific to the time. Setting current expectations. What I mean by that is basically saying, based on how last week went, this is what I want to happen this week. All right? There's always going to be a week-to-week consistent goal, but sometimes you need that goal to be bigger or smaller or different just based on the current situation. If Christmas is coming up, I doubt we're going to talk about signing people up on the 25th of the month. Month-end reviews. These are really quick. You tally up all the statistics, you calculate their pay, you go over this with them, and you set current expectations for the next month. Done. Really simple. Just got to make sure you do it. Yearly reviews. Okay? There's a thing called a 360-degree review. What this means is you get an anonymous survey about the staff member. There's 3 versions of it. Their manager, which would be you, one of their coworkers, and one of the students or one of their customers. Each one is just worded a little bit differently, but what it is it's an opportunity for someone to communicate the strengths and weaknesses of the person on your team. One way you can do it is on the coworker and on the student one, only mention the strengths. What are the things you like most about Instructor John? What are the things that make you feel good when you work with them? What is his best strength within the team or her best strength within the team? That way, when you sit down with them to talk about your review, they have an opportunity to see what colleagues say, they have an opportunity to see what the customers are saying and what you're saying. They get a full perspective. If you don't have a big enough team and it would be obvious who would be conducting the peer-to-peer staff review, just wait a little bit. Succession planning. Don't hire staff and have them think that for the end of time they'll be doing the same thing in your school. They have to know that there's an opportunity for them to move into a new position if they perform. So mention that. You know, one of the things I would like to do with you in the future is have you manage another location. Or one of the things I'd like to do with you in the future is have you do all of the introductory lessons and sign up everybody. Here are the things I feel you need to do to get to that point. Okay? And that's the goal setting. So make sure you do this once a year with each one of your staff members. All right, takeaway number 4. This is pretty harsh, but it's truth, and we got to cover it. Knowing when someone just simply cannot do the job of sales in your school. So here are the red flags. First up, they shadow you 10 times on a phone call, or they shadow you 10 times on an appointment, and they still struggle to even get through it. All right? If they struggle in any of the steps that we talked about today, after shadowing you 10 times, it's probably just not for them. Okay? If they're a family member, all right, work with them until they get it. But if this is someone that you're paying, just know that every day you keep them on staff because you're scared of having to train someone new, you're just delaying something you're going to have to do anyway, and while you delay it, you're hurting your business, you're hurting your students, and you're hurting your future. All right? So evaluate people after they've been shadowed, and if they're still not getting it, move on. Next up, if you find out anyone on your team doesn't believe in your product at all, it's time to say, thank you so much. You've just qualified yourself for a different opportunity. Now, I'm not saying they have to, blindly love every single thing about your school and every single thing about your services. It's fine if they have a couple opinions on what could be better or what could be different or things that we're missing. That's natural. Nobody's perfect. But there has to be some core belief in the product that you're offering. And if that's not there at all, fire them. Let them become your student again. It's not healthy for them to be selling something that they don't believe in. Last one, if they take actions that create a serious risk for your reputation. Some people just don't have ethics when they're communicating. They'll lie to make sales repeatedly. Or maybe they'll just do something in public that they shouldn't have done, and now that's being related back to your school because they're a known employee. All right? If someone puts a serious risk for your school's reputation, that is extremely, extremely important, and you need to deal with it immediately. I suggest one warning, and upon a second occurrence, termination immediately. Can they have their job back in the future? Possibly, but it's very key that you set an example. Otherwise, you never know what kind of situations you'll be dealing with. All right, the final takeaway of the webinar is tools you need to make all this happen. Okay, so let's go through the things you need. First up, you have to have an email system, preferably one that can store information about the contacts inside of it. So that way you can have automated emails to go out to people who are type A, example, a web lead that came through in the last month, type B, example, a referral that was generated, type C, someone that we met in person and they agreed to fill out the iPad form or we got their card or whatever it was. And then underneath all those type A, B, and C, you've got the little subtypes such as they're interested in martial arts because of weight loss. They're interested because they just want to pick up a new hobby. Maybe they're playing another sport and thought it'd be cool to cross-train in martial arts to improve their core strength. All those different kind of subtypes need to be stored in an email system that can intelligently, automatically send a sequence of nurturing emails so that you don't have to. Okay? You lose money each and every time you have to write your own email. So why would you keep doing it? Get an email system that can do it for you. Sales automation. What we're talking about here is a system that will automatically take leads off your website and put them in your contact manager. It'll automatically let you know when somebody isn't following up with someone. If there's a contact that's been in your database for 30 days and no one's called it, holy smokes, just get a $100 bill and put a lighter under it. You're burning money, okay? You definitely need a planner system. There's no way you're going to be able to measure who's coming, who hasn't come, who missed their appointment, all that stuff if you don't have a strong planner system that can track what is the status of every appointment and make a list of people who are booked, people who are who showed up, and people who missed their appointment. Reporting. How do you expect to pay your sales staff if you don't know what they've done? Okay? And all of this needs to be something that everyone can access, meaning both the employee and yourself. I'm assuming you're not at your school 24 hours a day, but you need to be able to see what's happening at your school 24 hours a day. How are you going to manage twice a day and do those check-ins that are so critical to keep the momentum going if you're not able to see what's going on? And don't ever call in and listen to a story. Stories will make you go broke. Stats will make you rich. All right? And if you're not into making money, that's totally cool. But let me remind you this. Money is the tool and the fuel that will help you spread martial arts to your community. So if the reason you opened up a school was not to make money, but it was to teach martial arts to as many people as you wanted to, or as you can, money is the best tool to help you achieve that goal. All right, so at this point, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box, okay? Again, if you'd rather send them to me individually, you can send them to john@championsway.com. Friend me on Facebook. Would love to get to know all of you. And while I'm waiting for you to type any questions you have in the chat box, just want to remind you that we've got another webinar as well coming up for our clients, which is how to automate all of this in Perfect Mind. We mentioned the tools you needed just a second ago. This is the part where I do have to tell you that we offer a product that offers all of that under one hood, one login, covers everything. So while we're waiting for the questions, don't forget our website, championsway.com. We've got a lounge there that you can also put up any discussion posts or blog posts if you wish to share anything with us. That would be great. And yeah, in the meantime, I'd just like to thank you so much again for your time. And if you're watching this recording, please don't hesitate to provide some feedback as to what kind of subjects you'd like to see in the future and if you thought this webinar was helpful or not. Okay, Rob, absolutely. That's just fantastic. We'll make sure that we get you the email template webinar recording as well as the whiteboard stats. We'll send you that, template. And I'll see you on Facebook soon. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Dou itashimashite, Rob. No problem. And it looks like Art's got a question, so I'm just going to wait for his question, and then we'll have time for one more, and then any other questions, just give me an email. Okay, perfect. You're going to send me an email. It looks like everybody's choosing to send an email this time around. That is absolutely fine. Again, thank you for coming today. This is John Malik representing ChampionsWay.com, signing off. Please don't hesitate to contact any of our sales representatives if you'd like to learn more about our products. The phone number is 877-774-5425. Option number 1 is the extension to choose. If you prefer to inquire by email, just send one off to sales@championsway.com or post a question in our lounge. Thanks again. Signing off.